12. Okay, good evening. I know we're on the wrong day today. It's March 5th. And we would usually meet on March 6th or on the Thursday, but we're doing what Larry and I say today. We're going to do TNT on Wednesday. So that's
That's right.
that's confusing, but Thursday Night Torah on Wednesday. It's the Wednesday edition of Thursday Night Torah. All right, so I kind of left off last week with a teaser. Um, and I'd love to say that we'll talk about it next Wednesday, because next Thursday is actually Purim, right? So I can't say for sure next Wednesday we'll talk about it. So what I'll do, we'll talk about it a little bit tonight. And obviously, if there's more room for discussion, we can throw another one in there, or if someone wants to go into the archives, the Spartan Rabbi archives, you probably can find some recordings that talk about other aspects of Purim and the like. So we can go there. So we did talk last week about the beginning of Adar, which is why I'm wearing my smiley face tie, because we try to get ourselves in the simcha mood, elevated simcha. We try to add on to increase our joy during the month of Adar. So us as human beings, we know we got to do physical things to create emotions and to create spirituality. So for me, I put the tie on. Even if I'm in a bad mood, it usually makes somebody else smile, or somebody else be like, "Oh man, nice tie," right? And then it gets them smiling, which gets me smiling, and hopefully make some other people smile too. So that's why I do it. No, it's not an obligation. There's no biblical obligation, no rabbinic obligation to do so. If you want to bring more joy into the world, I don't do it all year round, but maybe if I start working at Walmart, I would. But for now, we'll just keep it at that. Okay, so the teaser I threw out last week, the one-liner, I said that for me, I think the hardest holiday of the year to feel like I am actually accomplishing what the rabbis and God want me to accomplish from the holiday is Purim. I'm most nervous when I get to Purim. Now, that sounds crazy. That sounds intense. Maybe you'll say that it sounds rabbinic, right? In nature, oh my goodness, this rabbi with his craziness. But I think once we start to think about or ask ourselves, maybe I don't know if we've ever asked ourselves, and of course I think we need to ask ourselves this before everything that we do in life, but that's a little intense and a little daunting. But we do have to ask ourselves, what are we actually supposed to accomplish on Purim? Okay, yeah. I mean, Haman and Achashverosh, they tried to kill us, right? The cute, funny joke, they tried to kill us, right? We went to war, we won, let's eat, right? Right. So is there truth to that? Certainly. Right. Okay. Yeah, we have to celebrate and say thank you, because Haman wanted to annihilate us. Not like we had by Hanukkah, where they wanted to spiritually annihilate us, right? But we still would exist physically, at least one aspect of Hanukkah. When it comes to Purim, they wanted us gone. They wanted to solve the Jewish problem. This is what it was about. Haman was the Hitler of that generation. May his name be erased. Right? That's who he was. He rallied the troops. He had a systematic plan. He convinced people. He turned the Jews into lowly people. All those kinds of things. Hitler got his ideas from somebody. It's in his DNA. It's in the Amalekites' DNA to go ahead and have a hate for us. And it's not just, there's something deeper there, right? Why is it so? What does Amalek stand for versus what we stand for, right? What is it? What is this Jewish problem that they don't want to, that they're scared of, and therefore they think they need to uproot that from the world? These are questions that we should be asking ourselves. Yeah, we like to have a good time on Jewish holidays. We eat good food, right? We sing great songs. We celebrate with community, right? All the things that are there that are awesome in life. We got family, right? It's all there. It's all part of the holiday. But we need to be honest with ourselves and say, okay, what is this really about? Who, what, where, when, why, what's going on? We're still celebrating this, 2,700 years later. I mean, like, come on, not 2,400 years later. What's it all about? So that's the question we have to start asking ourselves. I'm not, and I really mean it. I'm not trying to take the joy out of Purim. I'm trying to make it real joy, as opposed to the facade joy.
Kind of the
That
manufactured joy of some of the secular holidays.
exactly, or the Hallmark component,
Yeah,
Hallmark
right,
holiday, right?
right.
We go for depth, we go for real. We're not fan. Yes, you need. I like to call it a happy for 1 hour. In Judaism over here with Purim, we're not doing that. Oh, happy for 24 hours, right? That's not what we're doing, right? We want something real, something that we're going to walk away from the day trying to figure out, trying to learn, trying to remind ourselves, trying to tap into, to make it that we're not the same person when we go on to the next day. No, we experienced a Purim that changes us. It gives us a certain energy to power forward and to try to take that and bring it into our lives. And to do that is daunting, because it does have the risk of the manufactured joy, happiness,
So,
glee.
so here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I was listening to what you said, and you said that Haman wanted to annihilate us, completely destroy every Jew,
Yeah.
and um, to beat that system of evil is not a small thing, right? Um, you know, which is why we always, try to pass down the stories of the Holocaust and things of that nature, because they're just so terrible. They're just so outrageous. I mean, we've had enemies and we have enemies. Um, some of them want to beat us for different reasons, but not every one of them want us to be wiped off the face of the earth. They just want what they want. Um, I think there are certain scenarios that are so it's so important to recognize when we have basically won over evil. Um, so I think that's one thing. The other thing that I always feel about these types of holidays is that there has to be a balance, right? So for all of the the holidays of that that I mean celebrates not the right word, but recognize the destruction of the temple and that sort of thing. And you're sad about those moments, and you should never forget those moments. But there's a balance, right? I mean, so this is an opportunity to be joyous, and so defeating evil ain't a bad reason to
Right.
celebrate. You know that
Right.
kind of
And that
evil,
is that is part of the celebration, but there's more to it. We need to stop and recognize how we won, why we won, right?
right?
And that will give us the energy, or perhaps part of the answer of how we can win now. Or really, when you deal with Amalek, this kind of evil, it's in the Torah as like this is part of the mission of the Jewish people to eradicate this evil from the world. But what is that evil? Is it just we in Judaism we don't go for just the physical. We don't go for just what you're seeing, the way that it plays out. There's depth to it. Something that lies behind the mask, right? Let's just give an example over here, right? What is one of the number one lessons of the holiday of Purim? Is the name of one of the main things we do on Purim. We read Megillah Esther. You know what Megillah Esther really means? It's not just the scroll of Esther. It means Megaleh means to reveal, Esther means the hidden, to reveal the hidden. What does that mean? That means that the book of Esther is where God is showing us something that we really know, but we never really get a chance to see it play out. Now, what is that? That is what lies behind everything in this world. God cloaks himself behind nature. But really, what's the guiding hand of the world that allows everything to happen and only can happen if it's supposed to happen? Is God. Now, very often we don't get to see the cause and the effect or how things were set up. So this caused that to happen, and that caused that to happen, and that caused that to happen. Rather, we just see things in the moment, and in the moment, it seems horrible. A nice Jewish girl is taken captive as the queen of the disgusting individual of Achashverosh, right? Who knows what he's going to do to her, right? That's bad, very bad. Haman wants to kill the Jewish people, really bad. Achashverosh has a big feast. You know what that feast was for? The feast was a celebration of the fact that, you know what? We know and we understood that the tradition was that the Jewish nation was going to go back to Israel after 70 years of exile, and they're going to go back and rebuild the second temple. We know it's supposed to be 70 years, but guess what? It didn't happen. The Jews are no longer the ones of the world. Let's celebrate. King Ahasuerus, you are now the king of the world, of the powers that be. You are the man. Let's make a feast to celebrate it. And to do so, we're going to invite everybody there, including the Jewish people. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to flaunt it in their face. How do we do that? They go ahead and they actually take this week's Torah portion and they rub it in the Jewish people's face. Ahasuerus had a number of the vestments, the clothing and the garments and the vessels of the temple. We talked about last week's Torah portion, this week's Torah portion. These are the things that were made for the tabernacle, for the temple. Ahasuerus had those, and he used them at his party to celebrate the fact that the Jews are going to be just like everybody else, and they're no longer the Jews. They're no longer different. They're no longer unique. They're no longer God's special people. We know all that, and guess what? This is a celebration of the fact that I am the king, and I am going to stay that way. And I have the control over the Jewish people, control over the world, and that's what's happening. This is all part of the Purim story that most of us don't think about, we don't necessarily know about. And this is really what the book is all part of the story. That's a horrible thing. So when we look at that part, that's horrible. The list goes on of things that are bad news, right? But it actually is what leads to the salvation for the Jewish people. Esther being put into the perfect position to save the Jewish people and to save the world. Haman went ahead and prepared a gallows. Well, guess who that gallows he was preparing for? And he didn't even know it.
Himself.
Planning it for Mordecai, right? Well, guess what, man? We're going to hang you and your 10 sons on there. You're done. Right? There's more. You can go through this. If you go through it carefully, through the Megillah carefully, you find the different things. But very often we don't get to see the beginning, the middle, and the end. The story of Megillah is written in a fashion, actually took place over the course of somewhere between 9 and 12 years is how long it took. So this took place over the course of a decent amount of time. And each thing that took place was daunting in and of itself and horrible. But little did we know that God was setting up those pieces so that there could be a salvation in the end. so that they'll have a Darius that will send back the Jewish people to Israel to rebuild the second temple. So that this will get the Jewish people to repent in the way that they need to, so they're deserving of to go back and have their relationship with God renewed and go back for a second temple. This was the cause of it. Little did Haman know that he was actually, while he thinks he's destroying the Jewish people, he's actually recreating and strengthening to the Jewish people. So much so is the strengthening of the Jewish people, they got themselves back to as great as we were at Mount Sinai. We reaccepted the Torah in a deeper way, even than we did at Mount Sinai, is what happened to the Jewish people. It invigorated us. It recalibrated us, it recalculated us, got us back to where we needed to be. So while Haman thinks that he's getting ready to destroy us and free the world of the Jewish problem, he actually was solving the world's Jewish problem, because he was getting us back to where we need to be so the world could be where it needs to be. And this is what we talk about. Megillah Esther, Megillah Esther is where we get to a snapshot, right? So often in life, a horrible thing is taking place, right? And all we see is, oh my God, how could this be, God? Like, I don't get it. Oh my, how could something like this take place? And when we see it and we're living it, we can't zoom out. And yeah, it is horrible. It's bad. It's really bad when it's happening, but it's part of this picture that we don't get to see. And that's one of the major lessons in life. And that's exactly what Amalek was frustrated with. Amalek is the king of coincidence. They believe that Amalek is a language that the Torah uses, the language of Holech imi bakeri, that you go with me in this like nonchalant, coincidental fashion. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no real purpose. Man should just do what they want, and whatever makes you feel good, do it, and don't really worry about anybody else or any sort of consequences or calculations. Don't worry about it. Just, we're in this world to just soak it all up and have a great time. Don't worry about what you do. Don't care about anybody else. There's no morals. Amalek was brought into the world the concept of no morals. What you do does not matter. And the Jewish people we bring that moral life into the world. That's what Abraham brought into the world. This monotheistic approach of, no, God's involved with everything that happens. What lies behind the mask is what Purim is all about. And that's on a communal level, a global level, a communal level. It's on an individual level also, a familial level, individual level. Each of us, right? We have things in our lives that are just the most horrible thing ever. And we're stuck in it, right? We're stuck in there because we're stuck in Amalek's world. When we say wipe out Amalek, it means to remove that concept and say, wait, God is what lies behind everything that takes place. God's got a plan. He's the master of the world. He's got a plan. We got this. And on an individual level, very often when we deal, there's situations that we deal with, but about ourselves even. We're a facade. We got one thing going on the outside, something greater on the inside, but we don't even know that about ourselves necessarily, because we don't know who we are. We're the disconnect. There's a disconnect between the physical and the spiritual journeys of our lives. We're torn. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's like the desires and the awesomeness of the world. You could spend your whole life chasing after wants and desires and glitz and glamour and glee and honor and right. We could spend our whole lives doing that, right? Jealous of everything out there. And we do spend our lives doing that, unfortunately. But that's because we didn't, like we said in the past, there's a God factor. There's a spiritual component to our lives over here. We've talked in the past about the comparison of, in the Torah, when it talks about Yom Kippur, it's called Yom HaKippurim. The day that is like, the literal translation is Yom, the day, HaKippurim. The day that is like Purim. The day that's like Purim, Yom Kippur and Purim are opposites. What are you talking about? Yom Kippur, we take away all the joy. We take away all the physical. There's no hamantashen. There's no eating. There's no bathing. There's no singing in the same sense. There's no music. We don't do that same kind of partying and feasting. And we don't do these things on Yom Kippur. After Yom Kippur, we do, right? I mean, for many people, Yom Kippur, unfortunately, is not about Yom Kippur. It's the hump we have to get over to get the break fast, right? We lose out on the experience of what Yom Kippur is really about. But the Torah calls it Yom HaKippurim. Yom Kippur is like Purim. What are you talking about? And the answer is Yom Kippur and Purim are very, very connected. They're the two sides of us. They're the two parts of us. We've got a soul that's solely spiritual. We've got a physical body that's all body. It's all mundane, right? It's physicality. Our goal in life is to merge those two together within ourselves as community, the way that we interact with the world, right? Is this moral that we have? No, it's not just about the physical, the glitz and the glamour, Hollywood, crazy, ridiculous outfits at Emmys and Super Bowl shows. And right, this is not what life's about. Right? We got to infuse that with some spirituality, some soul. It's empty. It's only for 1 hour. Right? It's all fake. All that makeup. Oh my goodness, you know any chemical factories and are at the Emmys and the Grammys just in the makeup? I mean, goodness gracious, they're burning a hole in the ozone just with that. I mean, I don't know how they even sit in their chairs unless you like burn right through it with all that makeup. Right? It's a facade. It's not real. No, know how unhappy those people are, right? All those smiles that that's not what life's about. Oh my goodness, our whole world revolves around being distracted by like, oh, we can't really deal with our own real lives because, so since I can't handle my life and I don't want to deal with my life, I'm going to do X, Y, Z and pick your thing, right? That's what we do. I'm not saying there isn't a place for relaxation, there isn't a place for entertainment and to rejuvenate, give ourselves a break. I'm not saying there isn't a place for that. So you want to know why I get nervous about Purim? It's because I'm supposed to think about all these things and then try to apply it to my life in a meaningful way, just like I walk away from Yom Kippur with a goal or two that I'm going to accomplish in my spiritual world, right? I'm going to accomplish on my journey in life. I walk away from Purim that I try to get a certain clarity. I try to remove the mask of confusion that I have going on in my life and try to scratch away, move it to the side, and get a few moments of quiet and clarity to see, okay, what can I be doing better? Am I too controlled by my physicality? Am I too involved and too in it, and it's taking away from my ability to connect with my spirituality? Is that getting in the way? Am I living the life of the outside and the inside? Are they the same? Or am I starting to bring those two together? Am I bridging that gap, separating that, removing that separation, the distance between them? What you see on the outside and what's going on the inside, what's going on the inside, what's going on the outside, I want to bring that together. I want to be one. I want to be somebody who's living life to its fullest. I want to become the best version of myself. I want to bring meaning into my life, mindfulness and quality. I want to bring that in my life, into my family's life, into my community's life, into America, into the world. And how am I doing that? The place that's got to start, and the litmus test for it is twice a year. We do that on Purim, and we take it from the physical side of things. We super indulge and see how we do on an indulgence side. We eat, we drink, we're married, we get drunk. If people are up for that, it's the right thing or the wrong thing. We're definitely a lot looser. When we get looser, what comes out? Do we have a sailor mouth? Do we spit out junk and start talking about other people and talk about horrible, horrific, inappropriate things because we're looser now? I let down the guard and now I can say whatever I want, right? Is that what we do? Well, guess what? Pay attention. We need to pay attention to what comes out or what really wants to come out, but we are just at that point where we can hold it back and not say it, but we got a chance to glimpse of where we really are. The wine goes in, the truth comes out, is what the Talmud says. Nechnas yayin, wine goes in, yatsa sod, the secret, the realities, they start to come out. That's what we're testing on Purim. We are doing a deep dive into who we are. Where are we at with all those factors that we talked about? And Yom Kippur is when we examine it from the other side. We remove all the physical components, all that physicality, all that indulgence. We move that all away. And we say, I want to deep dive. I want to look at what my soul is feeling. How much has my soul been impacted by all the ridiculousness of the physical world that I've been overindulging in? How's my soul doing? What happens when I take away my food? Now, many of us just stay distracted because we're hungry, and we lose out on the amazing opportunity to actually focus on our soul and say, how much has my soul been impacted by my body? How's my soul doing? Yes, I'm hungry. Put the hunger aside. It's one day, man. We eat more in one day than half the people in the world eat, right? Put the food aside for a day. Let's do a deep dive and see how our soul is doing. How are we doing? What are the things that keep bombarding our mind while we're trying to pray? Is it important things? Or is it the ridiculousness of the world? I really wonder what happens at the end of that episode that I'm watching. You know, this is what these two holidays are supposed to accomplish for us. So you know what? Yeah, I'm getting nervous around Yom Kippur, and I get extra nervous around Purim. That's a deeper dive. You might say that's really deep dive, but
that's fascinating.
That is the deep dive of what Noach Karp tries to think about leading up to Purim and try to set myself up for, so that I can have a successful Purim and have it that I walk away the next day or even other days. So I really try to make sure at some point on Purim. So I'll throw it out there. Anyone that listens to this recording, if you'd like to experience or understand what a spiritually goal-oriented drunkenness looks like, track me down on Purim. That is a major component of what I try to accomplish on Purim. It's a spiritually goal-oriented drunkenness. And I'm always fun and I'm always and yes, but you want to see it hopefully elevated big time. I got a lot going on in my head, in my body that I'm not focused on. I'm pushing it off till Purim because on Purim I will focus on it. And yeah, I probably will cry. I will cry as some of that reality starts to come together. I'm like, whoa, man, Karp, you got work to do, man. You got things to deal with. And yeah, life's stressful, but you got to figure this out. And that's part of, so I'll laugh, I'll cry, I'll dance, I'll scream, I'll yell, it'll be all of it together at my Purim meal and beyond, starting from, I don't know, you meet up with me from between 3:15 and Shabbat starting. You'll get to see some of that, hopefully. Maybe, I'll send out the schedule of when I plan to party. But this is some of it. So that's the fascinating. So Larry, okay, I'm done with my spiel. It's a lot longer than I thought I was going to talk, but I guess now it's all recorded and out there. But yeah, Larry, what were you saying? Sorry.
No. I thought it was really fascinating. I never really thought about kind of the barbell concept of the connection between Yom Kippur and Purim. So that was fascinating. And then the whole idea behind tapping into the secret and really feeding the soul. I got a lot of work to do too, man. I mean, yeah, I really do.
We all do.
I mean, there's a lot I'm grateful for, clearly. But I don't always, I don't always feel it as much as I should feel it. And I don't always express it as much as I should express it, and it's all part of being a better man, and being a better uh, person in the world, and making a better contribution. And I mean, me. I mean, I'm trying. I'm I'm trying.
Good for you, Larry.
Thank you.
It's really important to do that. And we all should try. And, it's important to spread the information you know to those around you. And I try to do that.
That's right.
Well, I'll
That's right.
certainly, yeah,
I
I'm
read it every week.
absolutely try to live up to those values, Mr. Shapiro. I really am.
Yeah, good.
Amazing. All right, that's some of it, and it's yeah, a lot to think about. So definitely try to listen and digest it. Love to hear some of your thoughts on it and rebuttals on it. But there's tons more to Purim. That's why if I try to remember, Larry, I have a book called The 1 Hour Purim Primer.
Hmm.
Um, it takes less than 1 hour to read it, but I'll try to bring it along. Anybody
Okay.
else? Anyone else listening to this recording out there? If I haven't given it to you already, you can reach out and I'll try to get you a copy, or you can just go online. Just go to Amazon, or you can buy it used too. Go to any of these. Just type it into Google. Just type in 1 Hour Purim Primer, Rabbi Appistorf. Appistorf, Apisdorf, Appisdorf. And it's phenomenal. It will open your eyes. I think what I shared tonight is just one little paragraph or two. Not even a whole chapter inside the book. It's a small book. So what I shared tonight is really just one. This is one facet. This is why I love it. This is just one facet of the holiday that you could focus on. There's tons more. So this is just
the other cool
yeah.
thing did I hear you correctly when you said that, like, the entire story of Esther, I mean, really transpired over the course of 12 years? Is that,
I have to look. It's either 9 or 12. I'll look it up. I think it's somewhere between 9 and 12 years. Yeah.
when we read these stories, or we hear these stories, I mean, you don't think of how it plays out. You just kind of hear the
Right.
story and you think, oh, okay, this happened, all in one day, I mean, or in a relatively, small amount of time.
Right.
That also is mind blowing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to go through. I mean, I think another one, no cute idea that goes with not cute. Um, another idea behind this is if you go through the book of Esther, it's the only book in the entire Tanakh, the entire, the entire Old Testament, for lack of a better word, but that does not have God's name in it. God's name is not in there at all. That's another idea, the same concept, where God was there the whole time, but he was hidden. You didn't see it. He was puppeteering it from the top, as he always is. And
Maybe that's the secret.
That's it. And it's such a helpful thing in life. It's so helpful when we can go ahead and put something on God. That's not called being. I'm not talking about like, oh, I don't want to deal with life, so put it on God. No. When you invite that factor in, God's got a plan, right? You're not shouldering the whole burden by yourself. God is with you carrying part of that burden, right? God is with us. God is with us in what we're experiencing right now as the Jewish people. He's with us. Don't think he's not. When the Jewish nation was exiled, and they were exiled, the cherubs, which were the angelic baby figures that were on top of the holy ark, they were hugging each other because God was hugging us, even though we're going through it, such a tough time, even though we brought that on ourselves, and God had to give us the consequence that followed from our actions, but it's the consequence of love. Now we may not like the way it plays out because it's not exciting, and it hurts, and people were killed, and all kinds of things that came with it. But God's with us, right? That's the Jewish approach. That's the Torah approach. God's with us. We're not doing this alone. We've got community, we've got God, and we got this. We can do this. And that's the other energy of Purim. So a major factor to think about, right? That's a major factor. Just like God took care of us on Purim story, 2,400 years ago, plus years ago, God could solve this story. He is solving the story. We got a lot of craziness going on in the world, right? Got a lot of craziness going on in the world. Don't bring up anything particular. We're being recorded, right? So, but like, there's a lot of things that are going on out there that we continue to not be able to explain. It doesn't make sense. It boggles the mind, even outside of the pain that's out there. Some of the things that are taking place. Well, you know what? Purim's a chance to say, hey, we had this before. We've done this before. It's looked crazy from the outside. It looked horrible. And what is going on over here? Well, guess what? That was all part of God's plan then. It's all part of God's plan now. And we're going to be okay. There will be a salvation. We are going to make it through. We are going to continue to be a light into the world, be a light into ourselves. We're going to get that unity back together. A major component of Purim is the Jewish people's unity. That's another fact. I keep on going. We can keep on going all night long, right? No, there's so much. Really, there's so much. Every time we start talking, there's just. So this is what I mean. We owe it to ourselves. Owe it to Hashem. We owe it to our ancestors to take the holidays that we have and not just let them be a feast and a party. And no, there's so much more there. Let's not just walk away with rounder bellies the next day or a hangover headache because for no reason. There's something here. Judaism's loaded, right? Our holidays are loaded. They're checkpoints, opportunities for us to gain that energy and that strength that we need to carry us through our year. Purim accomplishes something for us that none of the other holidays accomplish. We got to make sure it's one day. Got to make sure we take advantage of it. So we got a week. We got a week to study more about the holiday, decide what we're going to get out of the holiday, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be fantastic because there's so much there to give us the strength that we need to keep on working on becoming the best version of ourselves, to make sure that we are thriving, not just surviving in life, because we know God's got a plan, and Purim is going to help us understand that a little better and bring that into our lives. So
Amazing.
We're going to keep on going. We better stop.